weird fucking guys. You're doing a manly thing, and you're a fucking dork.
I've got my lightsaber wearing my Pokemon hat today. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
Wow, you're a real Renaissance man, you know that?
Goddamn man-child.
What a fucking dork.
Yeah. But he's our dork.
This is not for children.
See, that's why the disclaimer's on. That's actually my daughter.
That's why we say it's not for children.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chris.
I'm John.
And we have a guest today, a gentleman that I actually, what did I do? I randomly walked into your place of business and was like, hey, I'm a guy that builds not nearly as cool car as what you do, but I'm trying, you know?
Which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that you went out of your way to come by and, like, meet me and stuff, you know?
So I do have to ask, because you like, right off, you looked up and you were like, oh, hey, man, I heard about you. Yeah, I heard good things. And I was like, from who?
Same way you found me, man, the internet.
Yeah.
That's how so the internet is, like, more commonly how people meet than anywhere else now, because people don't talk to each other anymore in real life.
Dude, it's kind of crazy. So anyway, today we have Jay Lyons. You're a local car enthusiast. You actually grew up with my younger brother, which I was kind of pleasantly surprised to hear about. Which kind of, like, when I think about the way your personality is and his, I could see you guys hanging out. You're very mild-mannered people. You're not. I've always been very eccentric, you know. But I could see that, you know. But you and I had a great conversation in your shop, and I was fascinated, man. You told me some things about, like, I was particularly interested in the way you started your business. You said that, I think if I recall correctly, you said I was either going to fly to California, move out there and live out there, or take all the money I had left and put a deposit on a shop and start a business. And I think that's the route you went.
Yeah, I had like $5,000 set aside that I'd been saving up to go away, and I was like, I took that money and I went and got a. Is that better?
Yeah, sorry.
So so I had like $5,000 that I had set aside, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go put a deposit on a little shop over in Lansdowne, and then I bought like a compressor and a lift, and I built this homemade paint booth in this like building that I shared with a landscaper. And it worked, man. It worked.
So you're painting cars while he's pulling in like leaf blowers and like lawnmowers covered in grass and stuff, and pray to God he didn't bring his follicles into your paint, you know?
Yeah.
So,
but the rent was cheap. And it was like hidden, so I could be there all, like, dude, I would be in there till like midnight, you know, 1 a.m, just working, doing whatever. And it worked. I always knew that, like, that this isn't it, you know what I mean? This is all temporary. And I never really, like, took any money from that, right? So whatever money I made, I just like stash it, reinvest it, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is not my money, you know? And then once I got out of there, it just grow. And now it's, you know, now we're here.
Doing well.
Yeah.
I'm amazed, man, because honestly, I personally had to make so many big, dumb, crazy mistakes. Like, I'm always fascinated when I meet people like you. I think my wife is kind of like you, where, like, you had direction at a young age. Like, you had, like, this focus of, like, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to work in this direction. And dude, I would say I spent 10 years of my adult life just banging my head against the wall trying to figure out what am I going to do, you know? So kudos to you. I think that's, first of all, that's pretty awesome, you know?
Hey, thanks. Well, it's when so like I said, we grew up in Darby. My mom had 4 kids by 21, you know what I mean? So like I grew up with like very, very, very young parents.
Okay.
And a big part of how they parented was figure it out. You know, figure it out, or I don't have it to give you, you know, or whatever. So once I used to like collect cans and newspapers and recycle them for money when I was a kid, right? And then once I realized that of all the things, hey, Mom, can I have this? Or Dad, can we get this? Oh, I can't afford it, or no, or we don't have it. All I have to do is just go out and do this thing, and that's going to give me the money that I need to go buy.
You got to grind a little bit, and it'll come.
Yeah, it's so simple.
Right? Yeah,
it's so simple. All I have to do is just like do this labor, and then I'm going to be able to buy this thing that I want. And it created a monster, you know. And like I when I was 14, I lied on my friend's mom worked at the McDonald's down here on 420 that when it first opened up.
That's crazy. I was working there then.
I worked there. Yeah, I worked there for like almost 2 years.
Really? I helped open that store.
Yeah, so did I.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't know, you're a little older than me. I was 14 and I'm 39 now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that translates to.
I was like 16, but I knew the owner because I worked at the one on McDade, and he also owned the one in Tennicum, and he owned that store. And he eventually was like gathering a team up of people that was going to help open that store. So
when I worked there, the Todd was the manager.
Yep, I know Todd. Yeah. And his little brother Mike.
Yeah.
And I used to, I will plead the fifth, but Mike created artwork in the city of Philadelphia. It may or may not have been illegal artwork, and I may or may not have learned from him.
Well, I started working there, and then I used to leave there, right? And I would get the morning shift, so I had to I remember walking, I'd leave at like 4:30, right? I would get done there, and then go across the street to Texaco, right? And then I'd pump gas at Texaco. And then I'd go finish the night out on the weekends working at the Green Olive washing dishes. So, like, I would do these crazy long days, but I was, like, balling out of control.
Yeah.
Did you go to school?
Yeah. I'm talking about on the weekends.
Oh.
Yeah.
But at 14, you worked 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah,
that's mind-blowing.
I got paid $4 an hour cash at, what's it called? At Green Olive.
Really?
Yeah. And then Texaco. I forget what I got there. But it was cool, you know, and I enjoyed it because what else am I going to do, you know?
That's kind of my mentality about it. Like, I work probably, I don't know, I have my regular job, and then I do like a side thing where I do like freight deliveries and pickups, and I just do that.
Which is killer to be in right now.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
and I love it. But I mean, I've been working at freight for 23 years, you know, since that was like my first profession, and I just never got out of it. But I probably do that all day long. And I don't think twice about it because then Saturday comes and I'm comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, I'd much rather. There's a lot of things that I need in life. Like, you know, I want to own property and stuff like that. But, like, I'm one of those guys that's just like, I live paycheck to paycheck like anybody else, you know? But I want to, like, you know, I just feel like I'd rather put the time into work and have something for it than sit around and say, I need.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's like the same mentality. Like, I guess I do the same thing. I buy up old rusty cars and try to make a little extra money. I'll fix it up. I'll tune the motor a little bit and turn around and sell it. Again, dude, Jay, not Rob. Don't call him Rob. I did that before the episode. Now I feel like I'm wearing a clown. You ever seen the meme with the clown makeup? That's me right now, dude. That's me.
That's great.
But so, dude, your product that you put out, man. Listen, I've been like watching and looking, and I'm like, man, this dude. It's the, you know what the deal is? I grew up in the body shops. Similar work. Well, it's what you do, only you do it on a more high end level. You know, in my opinion. And the shops in the 80s and 90s were all small businessmen. They were all small shops that were owned by some guys. Took a lot of pride in their product. I mentioned the shop earlier that I grew up in. Back in the day, the dude was brutal, but he also was known for putting out very good product.
Yeah.
He doesn't own the shop no more, and now a lot of the shops have sold out to local, not local, like the insurance companies and Caliber and all these other. So, like, The problem is in that particular industry, I've noticed, is that all of the guys can make a lot more money doing dog shit work at one of those franchises, and it's hard for a small business person like yourself to retain guys that want to put out really good quality. Dude, I admire what you do. You're like one of the last guys left that's still like, fuck this, we're just going to make it beautiful. But you know, like, to me, the big sales pitch is that people don't realize this. They call their insurance company and they're like, oh man, I got an offender bender. And they think that they have to listen to the guy on the phone when the guy says to them, well, all right, we'll take your car down the street to Caliber or, you know, some bullshit place that's going to just do a half-ass job and hack it up. But you have a choice. In the state of Pennsylvania, you have a choice to take the car to any shop you want. Now, you don't promote your business. We won't go down that road. I highly encourage, bother him anyway. See if you can't convince him to fix your car because he does great work. But
I appreciate it, man.
That's my sales pitch. I won't mention your business because you asked us not to. But dude, your work looks amazing.
Thanks,
you know?
man. Well, it's I always it's been hard to get people, like, guys to work at the shop, you know, like I mentioned to you before that we had 12 guys and me and my wife running the place, and now it's me and my brother and three guys. There's 5 of us total. And man, I can't tell you how many like guys who are like veterans in the industry. I hired them and they're really, really good. Like, I remember the first time I hired a painter to replace me, and I was so pumped about it, right? Because the guy that I grew up working for before I started my shop, he used to always tell me about this guy. And he's like, he's like, you're great, but this guy is like godly. And I'm like, cool, right? Like,
yeah,
he's way older than me, so like, I'm not taking offense to it, right?
Sure.
'Cause I still got time. I hired that guy, right, who had his own shop and his shop went under. And I'm like, I remember calling my wife so excited. I'm like, I'm getting out of the paint booth for the day-to-day. All the, like, the specialty stuff, or if it's something that's, like, really challenging, like, I'm doing that, right?
Sure.
But for the day-to-day, I got this really, really good guy. And, man, we just couldn't work together because he had, like, this like, old, disgruntled, worn-out guy habits that he just, like, despised me for asking him to, like, correct those habits, you know what I mean? I'm like, this isn't good enough, or I want this redone. And he's like, oh, you know, you're only making me redo this because, like, your ego. And I'm like, bro, sign your paint checks. There's no ego. Like, I want. If we have a battle here, I want. You know, you work for me.
Sure.
There's no ego. I just want it right. Whatever you sell to me, I got to sell to the customer for life. You know what I mean? Like, I warranty everything forever. So I'm like, but that just over and over again, you know?
Yeah.
So I got rid of everyone and partnered with my brother and just trained, like, aside from my fabricator, who's like the only guy that I've ever worked with that will do something the complete opposite way of how I envisioned it or wanted it done, and I'm still like, you killed it, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's really good.
Well, it's art. I think.
Yeah.
I think at
it's
the
like
end of
your
the day,
creative outlet to some extent.
I think it's art, but I also think that, dude, you're meticulous enough, and I think that you have the eye. Listen, I see your content and I see the cars you drive, and dude, the Dodge Caravan. Most people look at that and they're like, what is this guy doing? And I understand what you're doing because you like the avant-garde. He doesn't want, like, dude, you got some awesome cars that are very popular, very specialty cars that in the car world, people are like, oh my God, I can't believe he has that. But you definitely still have this weird tickle of like, no, I want some weird stuff. And the Dodge Caravan definitely falls into that category because most people have no clue that it is 100% total sleeper, you know?
I feel so fortunate to have found that thing, man. And my wife, who usually like kind of gets what I'm into and everything like that.
Yeah.
She just doesn't get it, doesn't think it's cool, doesn't want to drive it, you know what I mean? Like, I was dead serious. I'm giving my wife's Escalade like a freshen up right now. I'm like, I need it for a month.
Yeah.
And she's just like, what am I going to drive? And I'm like, well, like, I'm dead serious. Like, you drive the van. What do you mean? Like, this thing, it's so practical. Of course you would drive the van, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not driving that. As soon as I brought it home, like, I was like over the moon about the van, right?
Yeah.
and I bring it home, and she like comes out front and sees it, and she's like, "Oh my god," and I'm like, "It's amazing, right?" She's like, "No." Like it's like,
We'll let her drive the Mercedes then. Mercedes is a gorgeous car, man.
I told her she can drive that, but like we have a 2-year-old in a car seat, and I'm like, you really want to be like reaching into this low car in the back seat to, or the van? It's like you slide the door open and the kids just get in there and rock out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's just I got that thing from this really old lady. So she's so old that she's like in a nursing home, and I dealt with her son, who was crazy old. Like this guy's like in his 70s.
Wow.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, like mom loved this van, and she bought it when she retired because she started a crafting business. So she'd take it to like local craft sales and whatever." And I'm like, when I found the listing, I messaged the guy immediately, and I was like, "I'll take it, right? And I'll come now." And he's like, "Yeah." And I always leave my cell phone number when I message people. I'll take it because like, you get bombarded.
Right.
So he calls me like right away, and he's like, "You can't come now because I have to get the seats out of storage." And I didn't know what that meant until like I got there later. But apparently when she bought the van, the first thing they did was remove the back seats and put them in storage because she didn't need them. So the back seats have like never been sat in. It's like mint condition.
Yeah.
And they made like 400, I think, of those.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like you said, I got some cars that people freak out over, but like it's that weird stuff to me that I really get juiced up about. And it's not just the van, right? Like I love the story of the van.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now we're doing this whole overhaul on the whole thing, right? So like I did the mechanical overhaul. I gutted the entire interior and like cleaned and freshened up anything that was like old or worn or anything. But I like dynamated the entire inside with like a insulation material and a foam, and got the headline, and like all fresh inside, and put a stereo and everything like that. And then like this week we spent making like a piece that looks like an original part for the car that goes on the headliner behind the dome lights for a boost gauge, right? And the boost gauge I used was from another Shelby model 80s Dodge that we like chopped and made smaller. We like took this gauge apart and made it smaller to fit in this pot, like. So I always say like I'm not a real car guy because the stuff that I'm into is not popular. Like a lot of like I'll spend so much time on a modification that you're like, what did you do? And I'm like, oh,
but you're doing it for yourself.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean that's what a real, like, I don't want to keep calling you an artist or nothing, but it's a creative outlet. That's what you do. You create things for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise
it sounds to me like a lot of it is about integrity for you as well.
Always.
Yeah, it has to be.
Well, for the longest time too. Like I remember sitting at my kitchen table in my crappy apartment in Norwood when I first met my wife, dude. Like I didn't have nothing, right? And I remember sitting there talking to her, like telling her what my goals were. I'm going to build custom cars, and I'm going to do Ferraris and Lamborghinis and all this type of stuff. And it seemed so
unattainable.
Yeah, like it seemed like it was just like I was like, it was, the words were coming out of my mouth, but I like halfway believed it. You know what I mean? Like I think it's going to happen. I just don't know how I'm going to get there. And then we got to a point where we're like doing crazy, crazy big projects for some famous people and stuff like that. And like I got to where I thought I always wanted to get to. And I got there and just like, I don't really care this much about this.
Yeah.
Like I got to the goal and I'm like, it don't really matter, because I was doing these like big ticket, high budget cars and everything like that. And it was like, I got to that point and I'm like, this is not for me, right? Because ultimately what I realized is that I don't care about the money, right?
Okay.
And what I ultimately want to do is like, I have these ideas in my head and I just want to build those ideas. You know? And I'm doing these cars for people and it's like, I'm just a slave to their bad ideas. And I'm like, I'm just not into it.
So I am on the back end, like the beginning end of where you're at. Like I've been an employee my whole life, and right now I'm battling with this idea of, just like you said, I'm not. I like American Muscle. I like taking. I really like when people like Frankenstein shit. You know, like I think it's kind of rad when somebody takes a 2JZ and they shove it into a Chevelle or something, and it's like oddball stuff. I'm not a diesel guy, but I have like recently thought about buying like a Cummins 4BT and like, put it in something odd. You know, I like the weird stuff. You know, and I don't. Like to me, I look at you like a body shop guy. I'm like, you and I talked before, and you're not as focused on like building a performance or like a monster race car. You like, dude, I looked at your Mustang and I was like, this thing is flawless, dude. It is like
the green Mustang. The Shelby.
It's like a turquoise. He's got like a turquoise one
I saw
with
something that looked like it was like green on.
The teal one, teal with like turbine wheels, and it is like unbelievably beautiful car. I mean, everything you got is really meticulously done, and to me, I always think about guys like that. Like my dad's a body shop guy. My dad is not a motor guy. The T-Bucket that I drove to your shop, dude, he handed me that car at a car show. Me and my wife wanted to drive. Like, you like car stories? This is the car story. My dad built the car. It's a kit car. He cut it in half and stretched it 24 inches because T-Buckets are usually 2-seaters. And he was like, no, I like this whole like Munsters Mobile 4-seater car. He's like, I'm going to do that. So he did. But he made the car beautiful. He's a body shop guy. That's what he does. He built the interior because he does boat upholstery and stuff now. He made the top for it. He put these little dingleberry things that all the kids love. You know, it's like these little wavy things on the sides.
Almost looks like a hippie curtain or something like that.
Yeah. But so then the motor-wise, which I'm the opposite. Like I said, in the beginning of this episode, I said that I'm a little extravagant or obnoxious or whatever. I don't care. I never get offended when somebody's like, dude, you are ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, I know. This is what I do. I blame my mom's side of the family, the McNiffs. They're all pretty wild and crazy. But anyway, let's get back to the car. So my dad hands me the car, and it's got a worn-out Chevy 305 out of like an 86 pickup truck or something, like a 1500 Silverado. Worn out, like clapped out, like smoking and shit a little bit, like with just like a generic Holley 550 carburetor on, like nothing. This is like not a race car. This is not a monster.
Yeah.
When I think about T-Buckets, like I think about Hot Wheels. I think like big, obnoxious, crazy exhaust and like big old choppy cam in this thing. So when I showed up and there's no exhaust on my car and the thing is just completely ridiculously radical, it's because I think that that's what a T-Bucket should be. And when I pull into the car shows, like you were there the other day, although I don't think you heard me coming in, but dude.
I heard you leaving.
yeah. Everybody knows when I left, you know? Which, by the way, the dude never, I was like, damn, man, they didn't take one picture of my car. I was like so pissed. I was watching their, their Instagram account, and I was like, no, I know it's going to pop up eventually. Nope. No? Never.
Wow. There was a lot of cars there. There's still time.
Yeah.
It's all right. I'm just busting chops right now, you know?
That was a good turnout, man.
It really was, and it was it was cool because there was a nice mix, you know? Like there was some... I go to car shows, and sometimes you meet like these old head dudes that are very like grumpy. I'm like, dude, I'm still like young and open-minded. I like to talk to people about their cars. I love the stories. You know, so like I want to hear like where did it come from? Who built it? You know, what did you do to it? What's your, flavor that you put on it? Some of these dudes are just like, meh, I don't know. I bought it at auction. I don't give a shit. It's a Nova, and you're like, dude,
it's kind of a crazy.
You suck. I don't want to talk to you.
Thought to like go out of your way to go somewhere that you don't want to interact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of car shows.
I hate that feeling.
Dude, a lot of car shows are like that, man. You know, a lot of car shows. I show up. I try to walk over to the other guys that have old hot rods and stuff because that's the class that I usually have to put my car in. And it's like, oh, hey, what's up, man? What do you got here? Is that a big block? And I start picking their brain and they're like, and they don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, how do you not want to talk about your car? Here, this is... So I was supposed to tell you the story of the car. My dad gives me the car because me and my wife wanted to drive away from the church in it when we got married. And we ended up doing that. He gave me the car when I had 5 years clean. We were at the Boeing car show, and he did it like in front of everybody. And dude, I was like in tears. Now this is what I'll say. We didn't grow up in Derby, but we definitely grew up tough. My dad owned a body shop, but he was like very frugal and like very, like the dirt bikes that we rode as kids were like trash picked, like an old 79 YZ80 that he was blown up, and he like took it. That's how we got into like fixing things, repaint the frame, put it all back together, freshen up the motor. Like that's the Hunter family way. Oops, sorry. That's the Hunter family way that like we got into doing like what you do, and that's why I appreciate what you do when you're sitting here telling me that you ripped the Caravan apart and like went over it with a fine-tooth comb and fixed things and Dynamaxed it. And,
but wouldn't you much rather have it that way? Like you have something that has character.
I do.
And has a history and it has a story and you rebuilt it and you. Like, I would think I would much rather have that than to just buy it shiny and brand new and
So in the car world, you have these guys. You have the battle between built or bought. And it's like, I'm sure he'll agree with me. Sometimes you just get worn out and you're like, dude, you know what? Like my Malibu.
Right.
My Malibu is awesome, but it's a never-ending fucking project. Now I don't own a shop. I just go there when I have free time. And nowadays with small children, free time is a luxury, So sometimes I look at other guys' cars and I'm like, well, for 15 grand, this thing could already be done,
That's the curse.
Yeah.
Because I used to get so frustrated when I would go to car shows and I would see like a whole bunch of like immaculate stock cars. Because I'm just like, I want to customize everything, I'm like, I want to buy this mint condition original low mileage thing and cut it up.
Yeah.
Because it was like trying to make a name for myself.
Sure.
And I thought that's what I had to do. And I kind of got my kicks out of just like going against the grain. Like, oh, this is going to get people annoyed. I'm doing it. You know? But as I've matured and like really learned business, that's what has like kind of been tough for me as far as like pursuing my interests and everything like that, because I'm like, all right, cool. Like I would love to build this car, but this looks like $70,000 to me for a car that is, I could buy it right now for 30.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm like, time is money. I'm not going to be here all hours of the night like I used to. So I can't look at it like, here's my 8 to 5, and then I'm just going to do this in my time. Now I'm like, my time costs this much an hour. If I'm working on this car, I need to bill it out like I would bill anyone else, bill myself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, therefore, like, I really want a 78 Trans Am. Bad. I really want one bad, right? And I'm like, am I going to buy one for 20 and spend a year of my time redoing it? Or am I going to just buy a nice one for 90 grand?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it might be cheaper to buy the one for 90 grand.
Yeah.
Right. And if I would have said that statement to my younger self, I'd be like, dude, you're like a complete idiot. You think you could do it yourself. It's free.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, and getting in that mindset is like taking a lot of the fun out of it for me for building those old cars and stuff, because I used to do it because I loved it, and now that I'm like more of a I got a mentor. I was building this Shelby Cobra for this older guy that I got linked up with, who he built custom homes for a living, right? And he does it like on a like $5 to $15 million homes, right? So he like paid to work alongside and be a part of the process. So we end up with all this time into this car, and like his bill is just racking up. And he's like, Jay, I have an idea. It's like, I've been working alongside you all this time, and I'm having a blast, but I know my bill's getting up there, and I'm seeing some things that like I feel like I might be able to help you. And I'm like, in what way? And he's just like, in business. And I'm like, okay, cool. So like, what are you saying? He's like, how about we trade off some hours, my time for yours, straight up. And I'm like, all right, like that's great. You know what I mean? So we start going to dinner, talking business like once a week. And in that time, he makes me read this book called The E-Myth, which is basically like about entrepreneurship in America.
Sure.
And I'm like, he gives me the book, and I'm like, no, like I'm good. I'm not a reader, And he's just like, all right, cool, like no problem. Well, I didn't know like that meant like, all right, deal's off. So
yeah.
I'm like, all right, fine, I'll read the book. And I get like page 3, page 4, and I'm just like, this is brutal. And you get to like page 10, and I'm just like, this book was written about me.
Yep.
And so reading that book, it really changed my perspective on things. And it helped me shift my mindset from like a technician's mindset to a business owner's mindset.
Big difference. The jump from employee to business owner,
Huge
which is a
difference.
It's like bird's eye view as opposed to like worm's eye view. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to describe like everybody on the ground level. I go to construction sites and I talk to guys on the ground. Iron workers will tell you this, carpenters will tell you this, electricians, everybody's bitching and complaining. If I owned this job site, this is how I would do it. But you're looking at it from the ground level.
Right.
You're not the guy in the sky looking down.
Yeah.
You know?
They don't have like a 3-dimensional take on the whole thing.
Right.
Right. They're just looking at it from where they whatever value they bring to the situation.
And I did want to cut in for a second about the book, because I haven't read that book, but I do read thousands of books, so that's next on my list. I will add it.
It's great.
I do the audio thing. I do so much driving with my day job that I listen to a lot of audiobooks. But one thing that I do is because I'm an idea guy too, you know, and I love the fact that like I'm not sure on the episode or before the episode you mentioned that like, dude, you're always like brainstorming and coming up with these ideas of like, what's the next thing that I'm going to give it a shot, and I feel like I'm doing that, but some of it hits, and some of it's like, that might be a dud. Maybe, you know, let's try something else.
Yeah. And
the one thing that drives me nuts is when people that I know will come to me and ask for advice, and I'll say to them, well, do you listen to Robert Kiyosaki, or do you read his books? What about Dave Ramsey? Have you done any?
I like that Seth Godin guy. I enjoy him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different guys out there with a lot of good advice, and in my opinion, whether it's good or bad advice, you should listen to it anyway, or watch it, read it, whatever you got to do. But the worst thing that you could ever say is what he just said, and the guy basically was ready to shut you down, you know? I have friends that I have flat out said to them, you know, dude, I'll partner with you. Have you ever, like, read any books on entrepreneurship or business, you know, like development and stuff like that? And they instantly are like, dude, I'm too old. I'm not fucking reading a book. And you think to yourself, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to be learning until I'm 95 years old.
Yeah,
if
you
I
don't
live
really
that
ever
long,
stop learning.
You know? For a 40-something-year-old guy to tell me that, like, fuck you, it's too late. Too late for what? Are you planning on killing yourself next week? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I am... I consider myself like an ultra ambitious person. I am always thinking, like, what is the next move that I can do to you know, like... I'm looking into talking to a lawyer about creating a trust for my kids, and like there's different things that I'm working on, all kinds of shit. Every idea. Let's just entertain every idea.
And sometimes it's as simple as you verbalizing it. Like he was saying earlier, he was talking about, I'm going to work on this car and the Lamborghinis and everything else, and he halfway believed it.
Well, because you have to. I think if you communicate and you talk to the right person, sometimes they'll give you a nugget of an idea, and you're like, you know what? Let me ponder on that.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about doing the real estate deals. Before me and my wife bought the Collingdale property that we have, which is a triplex, I did an enormous amount of research. I ran the numbers. I did the math. I did projections. I thought about every possible scenario. How could I fail if I tried this? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept coming back to this. The answer just kept saying, like, no, the risk is relatively low. This is a good deal. Everybody around me was negative. Everybody around me was like, oh, it's a shithole neighborhood. It's going to go down. You're going to own it for 30 years. You get used to Section 8. It's a fucking shithole. That place is terrible.
Yeah.
And then I drove through the neighborhood, and I was like, I don't know.
Not so bad.
I grew up in Eddystone. This don't really look that bad. Like, I could live here. This ain't fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And the block I was on was relatively quiet. I met the neighbor. The neighbor was a really nice guy.
But a lot of that is our backgrounds. You know, he's saying he grew up and he would have to walk a mile to the bus stop, and it was like walking before we started the show.
Yeah.
And he was looking, he was like a deer looking for hunters.
Yeah.
You grew up in Eddystone and Norwood. You know this area very well. I grew up in Grace Ferry. Every day was an adventure.
Yeah.
Trying to get from high school back to the house or whatever. You know what I mean?
You know what the irony of, for me anyway, is that, like, this is the weirdest thing. So my little brother. My little brother grew up in Norwood. My parents were divorced, so me and my sister would go down to Eddystone and spend the weekends down there, or go to Eddystone every chance we got, because I had the same life as you, only it was in Norwood. The kids in Norwood fucked with me relentlessly.
Yeah.
And I got jumped a lot. I got the shit beat out of me, like, I don't even know, hundreds of fucking times.
You had more meaningful friendships in that harder area.
Well, Eddystone, they were poor kids. I was poor. I didn't have nothing. I didn't even have fucking Nikes. Everybody's like, you know, these are the cool shoes. I can't afford them. I got the Payless shoes. I got, you know, I can't get DCs. This is what I got. These are $25 fucking skate shoes that I would wear out, you know? I grew up skateboarding, you know? So it's like, I always felt more comfortable in like, more impoverished neighborhoods. So like me buying a house in Collingdale, I was like not afraid at all. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'll buy houses in Chester. I don't give a shit.
I still feel like that.
Yeah.
I still feel more comfortable in those type of neighborhoods. Like my brother lives in Drexel Hill.
Yeah.
And it's like very much closer to a neighborhood that we grew up in, row homes and twin, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel much more comfortable in that scenario than I do with you know, in some of the wealthier circles that I roll in.
I feel better in like a melting pot kind of scenario than I do in like.
Well, it's so like you're saying.
It felt like it was so much more impersonal out here.
So like to take it back to like the family thing, you know, because you're a dad, you got kids, you're trying to raise them and teach them values and stuff, and I think that's the great fear. Like right now, my kids are in private school because I specifically like think to myself, I need to give you the best possible chance. But like you discussed, I'm a little concerned that like maybe you're not getting that raw edge that you need that's going to toughen you up a little bit. Like sometimes I'm a little like worried like
you're sheltering them too much.
Maybe. You know, like
no, I'm not saying you are. I'm just
I think at the end of the day it comes down to me as a dad. I have to keep talking to them and keep like I'm tough on my kids, you know. I'll fucking yell at them and like, dude, I'll straighten their ass out in a heartbeat. I'm not a modern like, you know, all right, Christopher, come on, come sit down. Dude, I'm not doing that shit. When I fucking said that this is the rule, and we're following the rule, you know?
Yeah.
But I also think that my kids are like me and they're very stubborn, so like, I don't know, maybe your children have better...
It's like a tough... you know, like when you're a kid, you think that your parents have it all figured out, and then you grow up, and it's just like, you know, you realize that adults are just growing up kids, right? We don't have it all figured
really
out.
Are, yeah.
Yeah.
And for my kids, I worry about them, like you said, just being a little bit soft because they're growing up in such a privileged way, and I think about it like growing up, it was a mixture of not knowing we were poor because everyone was poor.
Sure.
But also... Then we moved from, I lived in Derby. Then we moved to Colwyn, which was like an upgrade.
Yeah.
Colwyn's basically like a closet of niceness in Derby.
Sure.
And then we moved to Prospect Park when I went to 8th grade. And then we like stayed out the remainder of Prospect, right? And basically... Once we moved to Prospect, I thought we moved to a rich neighborhood.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, I really thought we moved to a rich neighborhood. We had a big single house, even though it was like in shambles. It was still a big single house in a really nice neighborhood, you know? And I remember being like completely beside myself at how everyone talked to each other, right? The way that other kids would talk to me and speak and everything like that was like this snarkiness and this sarcasm that I wasn't used to. And I'm just like, I remember thinking like,
the quality of people were better.
Well, I just kept feeling like, oh, are you trying to fight me?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm like sizing you up. Are you sizing me up back? Because like we don't talk to each other like this where I'm from. I feel like you're kidding, but I also want to punch you, you know? And that was like a tough transition for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But like where my kids growing up now, there's no neighborhood. We don't have sidewalks. The houses are super far apart from each other. Like we have these play dates with other kids, and I think it's super weird and it's like off-putting for me. But it is what it is, and it's different times, and like I feel like I always try to like force my childhood on my kids, but then in hindsight, I'm just like, you know, remembering like there was parts of childhood that really sucked. You know? So I'm just like, well, I'm going to force this. They're growing up in a good way, But dude, there's like the life lessons that you get from the neighborhood. Like you can't, my kids will never get those neighborhood lessons. Like so much of the stuff that I learned in life was from the neighborhood, from the kids, from,
you have a deeper connection
times.
to that too.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, I want that for my kids, but there's no way to recreate it.
You couldn't get me to go to like a high school reunion.
Yeah, I just missed out on my 20 year.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't go to that, but my friends from Philadelphia, they put together an 8th grade reunion, and we all went to Philly, and I never felt like more, like it was probably one of the happiest nights of my life.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Seeing those people again, seeing them as adults, and it's like we're all like in our late 30s at that point or whatever.
Yeah. And
it was like, and you just felt like they have so much more like depth and character than anybody else that I knew, and that not to like totally like down this area completely, because there's plenty of meaningful relationships that I have. Like I mean, like me and Chris didn't talk to each other for 20 years. We ran into each other at a post office.
Oh, okay.
And like now we're like great friends.
No, that wasn't me. I wasn't the guy that was like, "Oh my life."
Nah, yeah.
Oh my life.
Oh,
that
God.
wasn't me. I wasn't
no,
that guy.
Yeah, we was at the post office, and I thought some kid was going to attack me. This kid was
young guys,
Yeah, young kid, and him and his mother were having it out in the post office, and he was about to explode. And I was like, I'm looking at other people in there, and they're like, something goes down, we're jumping this kid.
I think you might have. Did you talk about that?
We talked about it on one of the
Yeah.
episodes. Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah, people are. It's crazy how. It's crazy like how aggressive some people can be.
Yeah.
Well, in this area, so I will admit to the audience that I had to step away because my children love to come down here and interact with us when we're trying to record. So there's a portion of the conversation that I did miss out on. I apologize, but I did want to reflect on the.
Basically, we were saying Delco sucks.
It does suck because it is ultra aggressive, and you know what the worst part is?
But he has a great way of articulating it. That like. When he was saying like the way people talk to each other,
it's brutal.
Yeah, right. It really is, and it's like it's so off-putting because it's like this isn't how human beings are supposed to interact.
Like there's this weird problem in my particular head where it's like I am so unbelievably comfortable at this point in my life living like this, but I really don't like it.
Yeah,
I love traveling. Because I go to other places and I don't have to do it no more. Mm-hmm. I went to Portugal and I guess I have like a weird PTSD about just the way people interact with each other, because when I go somewhere new, I am instantly very defensive and I think to myself like, what kind of bullshit is this person going to throw at me?
Yeah.
But then when I'm so pleasantly surprised when they don't, and I'm just like, oh, thank God, man, we can just talk and everything's fine, and I don't have to worry about you judging me or giving me a hard time about any stupid crap, like
that, man. The judging people.
Yeah,
that's the thing around here.
Yeah.
Right. And it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Right, because I don't like some people. I'm like, how do you have the nerve? Right? Like some people are so judgmental, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too, man. But I really try not to, because I'm like. I've heard so many times from people that I barely know, then I get to know them, and I hear all the time, like, you're so much different than I thought you'd be. And I'm like, what did
I'll
you
be
think?
honest with you, I was kind of intimidated just coming here today, having, like, seen your social media and stuff like that. I was like, I'm not going to know what the hell to say to this guy at all.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? I'm like, well, I don't know what people expect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think the internet, first of all, is always the worst.
It's like this other version.
Dude, well, so like looking at your pictures, you look flashy. You got really awesome cars. You wear them sunglasses, which I think they look a little eccentric, which I think is comical, because when I met you, I was like, this dude is not really that. You are very reserved. You're very methodical the way you talk to people. But when you look at the pictures, you think, oh man, this guy's like, he looks flashy,
a little colorful,
right?
Yeah.
So like the internet always tints people the wrong way, you know? So that's just my perspective. I mean, originally walking into your shop, I thought like this guy might scoff. Well, you're another Delco guy, so honestly, I was like, oh shit, this might be like, I might embarrass the shit out of myself right now. And then like, dude, you were so humble. I remember like looking at you and thinking like, this is a fucking enigma. I don't meet people that aren't recovering addicts that have a very pleasant demeanor towards other people. Like it's
so
normally
like an anomaly for you.
It was. I was like, dude, I just don't meet a lot of people, and I have to guard myself because I have I'm a secret optimist. I wish the best for everybody, but in Delco, I have to protect myself because there's a lot of fucking nasty people out here that don't give a shit, and they will fuck with me bad.
Yep.
You know? So it's like I have to like be prepared. Like I said a nice thing. Is this guy gonna fuck with me and start breaking my balls? And as brutal as I am, because a lot of people listen to my crazy social media stuff and the comedy that I do, I think that I am a product of my environment, you know? I was a nice kid. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to have trouble. I was an artist. I was a skateboarder. I just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
And I got fucking tortured. And then at some point, it wasn't even the physical beatings that bothered me. It was like the shit talking. But then at some point, I realized that like this is the name of the game. So now I'm like a Golden Glove champ of shit talking. Like when a guy on a job site wants to start shooting his mouth off,
Yeah.
I fucking shut him down hard. Like I will embarrass the shit out of you in front of all your fucking buddies because I don't care anymore and you're not gonna fucking do this to me. You know?
It's a crucial life skill. It
You know?
really is. It's like we push, get good grades and everything like that on your kids, and it's like in my house I really push. Like I remember like weeks of drilling my kids on mama jokes.
Really?
So they can run their mouth at school.
Yeah. And to be clever. Like to me,
You have good ones? You got any great ones?
When my son comes home and is just like fired up that like his classmates said his mom's fat.
Oh wow.
She's like,
but you know she's not. Like, why do you care?
100%.
Right? Yeah.
But you can't tell that to a kid, you know?
Yeah, right.
Like, he doesn't want to hear that. He wants to hear, what do I do about it?
Yeah.
And then tell him, like, oh, you can't punch him over that.
Tell him his
He's
mom's
just run his
fat.
mouth. Yeah, 100%.
So that's the
Tell her
issue.
she uses a VCR for a beeper.
Yeah. Well, dude, we had all types of good ones, and then he started making up his own, which were even funnier than anything I gave him.
Yeah.
Like, all right, cool, you're getting it.
Yeah. I think the strongest attribute that I would love to teach my children is how to be clever and how to. You have to look at the world like a chessboard, in my opinion.
It sucks that you do too, because I mean, you can get trapped with like people that just have an agenda.
Yeah.
You know?
Everyone's got their own agenda.
Right. And it's like, man, people just operate in the most cerebral ways. And it's hard to even realize that they are sometimes, you know? You can't get away just being a nice guy anymore.
Well, but you can and you can't. So like you have to know how to walk away. So like I thought about this a long time ago, and it's a thing that I stand by. There's two games that you should learn how to play because they teach you very crucial rules to life: chess and poker. And I don't think that you should play poker for money because it's not about the money aspect of it and gambling, but it's about the idea of learning what does this other person want from me, how are they trying to get it out of me, are they fucking lying to me, and it teaches you how to read people. You know, I can walk up to a person, I would say 95% of the time I can read them within a minute or two of talking to them and know what their agenda is and what kind of bullshit they're about to throw at me, you know?
Which chess piece they think they are in life.
Exactly.
Because like every single player, every single piece in chess relates to somebody's position in the world, right? Like it's that game is a very accurate reflection of real life.
Yeah.
Representation. And that's like super, super real. And I don't think that I noticed that until like my 7-year-old. He's like a chess, not prodigy, but he's really, really good, and he's really into it. And he taught me a lot about it, right? And watching, like they're like plays, like you'd see in a football game, right? Like he sees, oh, this guy's doing this combination of moves, and I know this play to counter that round. And I'm like watching it, I'm like, oh crap, like this is really this is super relatable how this is going down, right?
Yeah. And life in general, I think, is you can look at people or your relationships with other people, and you can see the same thing. And you know that, like you said, people accept their position on the board, and very few people want to be a different position. A lot of the times, they're okay with being a pawn. They're okay with being the knight, middle management. They're okay with, there are very few guys that look at the king or the queen and they're like, dude, that's the piece I want to be.
Yeah. Right.
They don't, most people don't give a shit enough. They're happy with, they're content, So, and then when it comes to the fact that there's two sides to a board, you have to realize, what is this other person trying to do, and how can I protect myself from that? Sometimes that means literally walking away. Listen, I sell used shitty cars, and I deal with people all over this area, the tri-state area. And people will message me on Facebook or whatever and just say like crazy shit. It's a fucking piece of shit diesel truck. I'm not buying it for that much money. Well, that's fine. And dude, if you want to start talking shit, then I'll just troll you. Then I'll just sit here and have a good conversation out of this and laugh about it. But for me, I guess the name of the game, back to the kids, is I'm trying to teach my children the way a pissing contest works, and it always will. And this goes into politics. This goes into social issues. A pissing contest works like this. The first person to get mad loses. That's it.
Yeah.
And you can look at any situation like that. If you and I are negotiating over the price of some crappy car that we're both you want to buy from me or I want to buy from you, whatever, it's going back and forth. You can either choose to walk away or you can keep going with this. The person that wins is the guy that doesn't lose his cool. And to me, like, all of those skills are things that I'm more concerned with teaching my children. And then also, obviously, is morals, which, dude, I watch your content and I'm always like, dude, this guy's awesome, man. He's like, he's really focusing hard on the moral thing, which to me,
it's harder to be like clean and entertaining than it is to be.
Yeah.
It is. I
Well,
mean, if
I
you think
think
about it, like, think about how hard it is for a comedian like, and I'm not saying you're a comedian, but I'm just comparing it to it. But like Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yeah.
Pretty clean guy.
Yeah.
He's not very vulgar.
Sure.
Jerry Seinfeld, not very vulgar.
Right.
Like, I would think that's a lot harder to do than to be like Sam Kinison, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that, man. But a lot of like I say that I create content, right?
Sure.
But what I actually do is I make videos of what we do and I post them. So like creating the wholesome content is easy because it's just how we operate in my house. You know what I mean?
But it's also not nauseatingly wholesome.
Yeah, well, it's just real, Yeah. And like it's like you said, like when you look at the Instagram, and the social media presence, it looks a certain way. And like when it comes to the family stuff, like we literally, like, I started posting and making videos and stuff like that, not for other people. I'm just like, I'm gonna post them up because I made them, and why not? And then it's like, people just start liking it or messaging, hey, I mean, I like the video of your family. I'm like, all right, that's cool. If other people enjoy it, that's cool. But in actuality, I'm just posting up like what we actually do. And the way that we grew up in a way that like and my wife too, like my wife and me, dude, like I lucked out. Like my wife is literally like I'm a big pusher of like karma, I was doing karma, and my wife was like delivered to me, right?
Yeah.
Like accidentally ended up in my like people you might know, and like accidentally messaged me or showed up somehow. We don't know what it was, but just like was like, here you go, here's this bit of a connection. And I just haunted her for like 3 months until she'd go on a date with me. And then it's like the rest is history. And like people say all the time, like me and her, our connection is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like it's wild how we get along and just like the connection we have, right? But like when I was growing up, when we had nothing else, right, my parents instilled values and like this, like we're a unit, it's us against the world.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to your story about you and your wife and how you guys met, and the funny thing is I have a very similar story. My wife actually hit on me. You know,
I can't believe that.
Dude, I had this.
I really can't
I know,
believe
isn't it crazy? Who would do such a thing?
I'm
You know.
kidding.
Listen, this is gonna be a rough little story, but it's funny, and my wife hates when I tell it. But this is the honest truth: is I had a Plenty of Fish account. I was worn out because I kept dating a lot of crazy women or women that just like, it just wasn't a good match. Maybe they're nice people, but it wasn't a good match for me. I understand that I'm a very unique individual, and like you said, I think that to some extent, I kind of believe that my wife is absolutely my soulmate because the connection that we have, the way we interact, we set standards from the very beginning that are hard standards. We don't curse at each other. We don't say nasty names to each other. We don't insult each other. There are rules in this house that we definitely follow. And it's not me or her. It's both of us across the board. The kids, too. You don't talk a certain kind of way to the family. And the golden rule is what you just said there. Us, me and you and these children against the world. And that includes what once was our immediate family but is now extended family. You know, my sisters, or my sister, my brothers, her siblings, our parents. If you're going to interact or cause a problem within this household, then I will cut you off. Yeah. That's the honest truth. And I love you, but I love my family more, you know?
Yep.
And my wife is my partner to the very end. That's the way it works here, you know? I mean, who else's spouse would let them build a freaking crazy podcast studio in their basement and take over half of it and buy a $10,000 worth of audio recording equipment and encourage me the whole time to bring strangers into our house? You know, like, dude, I come up with these crazy ideas, buying the rusty old cars and trying to fix them, and never once does she, like, insult me or say that's stupid or anything. She always is very encouraging and is like, okay, if you think this is a good idea, you know, let's give it a shot, you know? And
doesn't that put you in such an amazing headspace to be the best you can be, right?
Always. I'm always on guard that I don't want to fail my family.
100%.
So when I make a decision, it is very well thought out.
And when you want to take risks, you do it differently, knowing that you have this support. Like, I know this is going to be a lot, but I know that my old lady's got my back. You know what I mean? And like, we're going to get it done, you know?
But it goes both ways, though, because like, so my wife is a dog groomer. I kind of pushed her into it because I'm, I guess in the family, I'm the big risk taker. You know, I'm the one that's willing to, like, all right, you know, we got this, and we're gonna bet big on this one. So like, I pushed her into the business she's in. She's doing awesome in this area. They love her. We had an old rusty truck that we bought from North Jersey that I kept like just patching up and fixing. So in 2 weeks, we're going to fly to North Carolina and buy her a brand spanking new Mercedes Sprinter van that's decked out exactly the way it is, and we spent an ungodly amount of money on this truck. But it's like, to me, if I'm going to bet on myself, I also have to be willing to bet on her and believe in her, you know? So it's got to be reciprocating, you know? Like, I buy all these crappy cars. Sometimes it's a win, sometimes it's not, you know? Sometimes it's like, oh, dude, I kind of shit the bed on this one, you know? But
that happens.
Yeah, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Sometimes you just got to sit on it. Right now, I got a bunch of cars I think I just need to sit on because the market's just not there right now, you know? But with her, it's got to be back and forth. I got to support her in her decision making. Even, you know, like she wants to get the little dog that kept jumping on you is like this purebred with paperwork poodle that she takes to dog shows. Dude, I'm not a dog show guy. Don't tell her because she'll get upset. No, I'm just kidding. But I go to car shows. She goes to dog shows. I be supportive. It's like her standing there while you and I talk about the cars. She has no clue what we're talking about. You know, she don't know what the turbo is, you know? But I go to the dog shows and do the same thing for her. I'm there. I support you. This is awesome. Keep it up. You look great. You know, you need help. You need me to get you a bottle of water. What do you need? You know? So
that's great. That's good that you're supportive like that, you know?
I'm trying, man.
My wife's the same way. My wife, like, she always has these different things, like, you know, that it pops up and it's like her thing she wants to do. And I'm just like, whatever it is, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, she, like, when I had nothing, she was totally down. And, like, especially all the stuff we put on the internet, you know what I mean? Like, you hear people all the time, oh, gold digger, this, that, and the other thing. You know what I mean? It's like, if anyone knew how with me she was from the start, you know what I mean? So I'm like, at this point, like, nothing could ever change. You know, like, whatever you want to do, let's do it, you know?
Yeah. And even that, I will say to the naysayers and the negative people on the internet, because everybody's got some negative. I don't know what it is about the internet, but you know, I've noticed even on the crazy content that I make that sometimes you'll have people that'll just talk shit, you know, for no, like, just to get, I guess, to get likes on their comment or something. And it's like, dude, you know what? You and I know that the video of your wife jumping in the Acura, you know, and driving off, 9 million morons were like, oh my God, look at this gorgeous woman jumping in this beautiful car. Mm-hmm. Respectfully, you know, like, that's not why you created it. In your head, you were just like, hey, look, my wife's going to drive one of my prized possession cars, right? Because I trust her that much. Like, I knew what you were trying to convey in the story. Yeah. But, you know, there's a lot of low IQs out there that are just like, oh, how can I talk shit on this? You know,
there's like an off the cuff 1 minute recording of her just getting in the car to leave to go to dinner with her friend, and it's like everyone in the comments is just talking trash, you know, and hating on it. Yeah. Or she can't drive it, and it's just like, you know, people look for a response. And a negative comment will get a response more times, you know, more likely to get a response from you than like a positive comment. So it's created this toxic environment on the internet.
Which I'm guilty of, because I did comment that I would never let my wife drive my cool cars. But that's, in my mind, that's a reflection of my trust issues and my, I guess, greed. You know, like, I don't know. I should be more open. Go ahead, babe. Get the keys to the T-bucket. Let's go do some burnouts.
Well, as a car guy, though, a young car guy, right? Like, you gotta admit, at some point, most car guys, like in their early 20s or whatever, are like, man, all I want is like a hot chick that will do a motor swap with me on the weekend. You know what I mean? And it's like, you think you want that. So it's like, now I got to a position where I have this stuff, and I'm like, nothing makes me happier than see, and she loves it, you know? I'm like, she refers to the NSX as her car. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's awesome. Cool. Like, that's your car. That's the one, you know? She drives it more than I do. Yeah. But, I don't know, man. I'm like, as a man, the ultimate feeling of like fulfillment or like I did it isn't when like random people on the internet are like, yo, like nice life, bro. It's like when you can provide an environment where you can share everything you created with your family. It's just like that's where it's at, right? Like, I don't need love from strangers, you know what I mean? Like, when I built this thing that like my immediate people around me thrive from and enjoy, I'm like, I don't need your compliments because I got this. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, I appreciate the love and everything like that, but like, it doesn't count as much as it does from like, you know, the immediate family.
I think that's the evidence of like really realizing that like your purpose in life, you know, like at the end of the day, like I think, at least for me anyway, I used to contemplate, what am I here to do? You know, like John's heard my story is like, as a young guy, I was very creative. I was an artist. I went in the military, came home. I thought I was going to be like this ultra artistic person that everybody was just going to flaunt and be like, holy shit, man, you are just so creative. Like, you just set the world on fire with how fucking great you are. But then the reality set in that, like, dude, there are millions of fucking artists in this country, and you're just one of them.
Mm-hmm. Like, and you're not. Bummer. That realization is a bummer.
Yeah. So, like, that was a huge letdown, and probably led to a large portion of like my addiction and depression and stuff like that. And then it's like this, coming of age story of like, well, what am I here to do? And you know when it really sunk in is like meeting Gabby, but then when our daughter was born, you know? Yeah. That was the second, you know, seeing this little baby that now we had to take care of.
And she needs you.
Dude,
and that was... I'm here for it all.
Dude,
whatever you need.
At this point, it's like, I'll fucking sell all these cars, this house, the rental I don't give a shit. I will beg on the side of 291 if things got bad enough to feed you, just you. I don't even need to eat. I'll feed you.
Every grown adult that I talk to, that I'm friends with, like, we talk about our boy Alvin.
Yeah.
And like, he was on the cusp of really succeeding in the way that you wanted to succeed as a kid, right?
Right.
You ask him, like, what would you rather have? He's like, I want my simple life with my kid and my wife.
Yeah.
And my job and providing for them. Like, everybody I talk to. Like, when I was a kid, I wanted to draw for Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
I don't care now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care at all.
Even the content-wise. Like, I think you and I met 6 months ago or something like that, or early summerish. And even since then, I've realized that, like, I am spending more time. Honestly, I felt like I was wasting my time trying to make content to entertain morons on the internet, where I should be focused on building some kind of empire and establishing my family so that we're not struggling in the near future when the economy collapses. But we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But it's but ultimately the goal, I think, is dad. You got to be the dad. You have to like think.
That's really the greatest thing you're ever going to do in your life is your kids.
Well, I think
I
think at some point, like, I had a conversation with myself, right, with my mentor Don.
Sure.
When during all that business we were talking, the conversation came up, and he's like, "What makes you happy?" And I had to really think about it, because what I thought was going to make me happy was different than what I actually got happiness from.
Yeah.
And the two things I came up with was I love spending time with my family, and I love driving my cars. Not fast, not to car shows, not to car meets, not to anything. Just driving them.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I enjoy. And listening to my podcast or my jazz, you know what I mean, when I'm cruising. Like, that's what I'm into, right?
You dig jazz?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of jazz.
Cool.
Yeah. So,
the onion, man. You are an onion.
Yeah.
Dude. We're just peeling layers back here, man.
Well,
you're gonna have to come back and tell us about music.
Yeah.
I think if you're okay with that.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm into that. So, I realized, like, that's the stuff that makes me happy, right? And then I'm like, all right, so much of what I was doing was not what I was into, you know? Like, making, like, I started like doing my content as like making car content, and I realized I'm like a lot of stuff I find super interesting, I post it and it gets no love.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
My art.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm like, I think this is so interesting, and I post it, and I'm just like, no one's into it. And then I do this thing where it's like, I took this engine from this car and I put it in this car, and it's just like, everyone's like, oh, that's so awesome. I'm just like, man, I couldn't care less about that, you know?
Yeah.
Isn't that, I swear to God, that's the curse of
art page.
Kurt Cobain, man. That's the whole well, I say Kurt Cobain, but it's many other artists too. So I always bitch and complain that I went to 3 years of film school when I got out of the military.
Yeah.
I had like this whole grand scheme of like writing scripts and directing them. I know how to do lighting. This computer is completely outfitted with Final Cut Pro so that I can edit video on it. I wanted to do that, man. I want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Every time I make a video for TikTok and I lace some audio track over it and I splice it and cut it and make some really nice shots and get some get a little creative. Nobody gives a shit, dude.
The starving artist thing is real.
Yeah, man. You know?
I had to have that realization with my company, you know? Like, when my younger brother became a partner, he taught me so much. Like, he taught me where to focus on, right? He taught me, like, and one thing about him is that, like, he really appreciates, like, my skills.
Yeah.
But he knows me better than I know me, kind of, right? He's like really insightful, and like he's like, man, like, you don't even realize that these people are leeching off you. You have so many people who deal with you because like you're like an asset to them, and they're just exploiting you, and you don't even realize it. And I'm like, how? And it's just like look at all the time you're spending on this thing, because you just want to make this beautiful thing, but you don't realize, like, you have so much time into this that, like, you didn't bill out your time.
Yeah.
So like, of course this person's gonna keep coming to you or want you to do their stuff because like you're getting this crazy deal because you're not billing out accordingly how you should be. And I didn't realize that because I'm just like happy to be working on this really cool project, you know?
Yeah.
So then once I really started getting in a different mindset and looking at not only like the project, but the numbers of what it is I'm doing, I'm like, I realized that there wasn't a big financial gain for me in doing the things that I love doing for other people. Now for me, I'm like, you know, if I do it for myself or I do it for like, you know, like the money that I'll make as like a YouTube or TikTok video, if there's like monetization there, cool, right? But doing it for the public and everything like that, you know, it's like, well, you could just make this body shop run like a machine and the people are generally very appreciative of your efforts. Versus like on the other side of things, you know, like the restoration and customization tends to be more hiccups, more changed plans, more like, hey, I want you to do this thing. And then, oh, wait, no, you know what? I want to do this now. It's like, okay, cool. Who's paying me for that month that I spent doing the first idea you had?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that kind of like when you mix the artistic side with business, it's like, man, when I see these guys like Kindig and these Gas Monkey garages, when I see those guys, those shops, I don't consume any like car content. I don't watch car content really outside of the shop, you know?
Sure.
But when I look at those guys that are operating, I'm not impressed by what they build, not to take anything away from them, right?
Sure.
But for me, I'm impressed like, okay, cool. So you've been doing this and this is all you do and you've had a shop for 15 years and you're wealthy. How? Like, that's what I'm impressed by. You got 10 guys that have worked for you all this time and like everyone's doing okay. That's impressive because I'm like, it's so hard to do it and make money. And that's even coming from a place of like having gotten to the point where like we were, and I say were, cause I'm on pause right now just because like we have about 3 years worth of projects right now. So like, I'm just not taking anything else on project related. Right.
Sure.
But I'm like, it's so difficult to do it and make money. And that's even coming place from like doing it for like the upper echelon, you know what I mean? Like what I wanted to.
Sure.
And, so I don't know, man. The starving artist thing's super, super real.
Well, I definitely think in our economy right now, and I'm not going down a rabbit hole about politics or any of this bullshit or whoever, but I definitely think in the car world, I mean, I'm on a much smaller scale of what you're doing. I'm not dealing with the upper echelon. I'm trying to get a regular Delco asshole to buy a crappy 93 Camaro.
Getting somebody to prioritize
with a high,
that.
you know, with a high horsepower motor in it. I mean, I can't even find a kid that'll buy a $5,000 car. And right now, I think just everybody's holding on to their wallet like a, you know.
Yeah, and it's like you remember in The Grinch when he had like the bag of goodies and he's about to re-deliver it down to the town. Like we're at that point right now where it's like about to hit the fan. You know?
Yeah,
like we're about to start going down the hill. Like it's bad now, but I think it's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah,
I don't think we've seen it yet.
And that's why, like, I mean, I guess, like you, like John, you mentioned, you and I have discussed in great length about starting like a little business of your own. I think everybody at this point, the most advice I can give to anybody is you should start some small side hustle of some kind.
Yeah.
Find something to do with your spare time, and even if it's just a little bit of spare time. Listen, I'll tell you this. I'm such a weirdo that I'm trying to take this bookkeeping class so that I can do online bookkeeping. But it's also a twofold thing because I want to learn how to manage my wife and I's businesses better, you know? Right now we're paying a bookkeeper. I'm really good at math, oddly enough. I'm an artist guy, but I also have a very logical, disciplined, organized side of me that I'm trying to utilize, and I'm trying to, you know, like, I'm just trying to tap into that resource. The truth is I've been an employee my whole life, and I have this urge in me to be self-employed, you know, and I'm honestly, I'm deathly afraid. You know, that's the honest truth. If I'm going to say anything right now, is that like making the leap of leaving full-time employment, which it's a great job. I'm not talking bad about my employer. They take very good care of me. They've been great to me. But there's this, I grew up in this family where everybody was self-employed. My little brother's now self-employed. My dad has always been. And I want to give it a shot. So I'm doing, like you said, I'm doing all this research. I'm trying to stack the deck in my favor. Learn how to do bookkeeping. Learn how to do accounting. Do the market research to whether this is a good business to go into or not. Like you're already established, but like me building little crappy cars in my one-car garage and then turning around and trying to sell them, I can't compete. There's just too many body shops in this area. There's too many car dealers. There's just too many guys that are already... I mean, Delaware County is like...
It's congested.
Dude, there is a huge amount of car guys already here doing it. Plus, most of us in Delco have the same mentality of build it ourselves. Like a lot of guys, whether they're a carpenter or... They don't even have to work in the car world. A guy that buys a Chevelle or Acura Integra or whatever car is your fancy, they typically want to build it themselves. So to convince some guy like, hey man, well listen, if you buy this car, I'll put the turbo kit on it for you. Most guys are like, nah, dude, I'll just keep that $8,000 in my pocket.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's something about Delco that a lot of people don't like touch on is that once you find like good people around here, like you get a solid network. I mean, you get really solid people. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I haven't advertised in years, dude, and it's because people that like ride with me, are like ride or die. You know what I mean? Like they really have your back. They really go out of their way. Dude, you gotta go see Jay. You gotta go there.
Yeah.
And if you have a reputation for being honest and trustworthy and like actually looking out for people, it really goes a long way around here. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot to be negative to be said about Delco, but there is some solid people. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. So on the on my wife's business, she's a dog groomer, and I would say in the dog grooming world, my wife is a lot like your business model.
Yeah.
Her business model is very specific. She charges an hourly rate, and she gives you the absolute best. Your dog comes into the truck looking like crazy mess with hair mats and all this stuff and poop stuck to her butt.
Yep.
And when the dog comes back out the other end, the dog looks like it's ready to go to a show. And she's very... Like there's other girls in the area that are like, you're middle of the road, like, all right, I'll just take some buzzers and buzz the hair off. But my wife goes the extra mile of like... There's different techniques to, like, I guess do the haircut where they, like, pull some of the hair out a little bit. They call it carding or whatever. And she's very meticulous. Very meticulous. So again, I absolutely agree with what you're saying because, dude, I was scared, man. When she first started, I kept thinking, all right, well, I'm going to have to cover the bills for a long time until she gets straightened out. And, dude, she jumped right in. And immediately
hit the ground
running.
The
phone just wouldn't stop, man. Yeah. It was just like
now it's like she can't even like
people on Facebook that are friends of mine that have never even met her.
She's
like,
a waiting
same
list.
thing like you said. Same thing like you said, dude. The word of mouth is so important, especially in like Delco's a tight community. You can't go too far without running into like, oh yeah, well I know you through this person, or like it's an association thing, and it's it's just kind of like it's kind of mind-blowing, which again there's always that fear of mine, like I'm trying to look for some kind of niche thing that I can do that doesn't interfere with also like guys like you. Like, dude, I respect what you do. I don't want to compete with you, man. I think you're amazing at what you do. Like our mutual friend Bobby Kaufman wants to retire. I want to be him, man. I want to build awesome motors and help guys tune motors. I would love to do that. I would love to own a dyno. I don't necessarily want to own a body shop because I don't want to breathe in like sanding dust and shit, and like I don't want to smell paint fumes every day. But that's just my thing, But like I'm fascinated with building like high horsepower motors. Let's take this LS motor and put 2 giant turbos on it and make 1,500 horsepower. I don't even care what you put it in. I don't give a shit. Let's just
you just want to build it.
Yeah.
No, I mean I'm into that, and I agree with it too, but I think with anything you gotta look at what you want to do, and before you look at what you want to do, I think you gotta look at where you want to end up.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, you know, like where you end up is going to be a result of what you do, right? So it's just like if you love this thing that you're doing, but it's, you know what I mean? Like you want to be Bob Kaufman, but like you want to be Bob Kaufman, right? Because like, you know, like Bob's awesome and everything like that, but I think if you talk to him, he would probably tell you he's got some things he would have done differently.
Sure. Well, I think ultimately that is the when you come up with an idea of like something you want to do, I think the immediate question should be exactly what you said. What is the end game here? What are you trying to really achieve? It's not the business.
Yeah.
It's not the business. So I read a lot of books and I listen to a lot of seminars about successful people and different things that they do. The one thing that I recently heard, which I realized, oh, holy shit, they're directly talking about me, is the one guy said, look at all these people on the Forbes list. Look at them. Look at the word next to their name. This is the industry that they work in because they focus only on one thing. Now, they may have investments in other things to kind of like spread the eggs out a little bit, but ultimately, they're really good at one thing. Now, I will say that about you, and you may not admit it, but you had an arrow and you shot it in one direction and you worked really hard to make it very good.
Yeah.
You have a product that stands by itself. You don't even have to advertise because people know,
right,
I'm going to take my car over there. I have this classic car. It has to be done right. We're not going down the street to some shithead that's going to just fucking half-ass overspray the windshields.
Right.
Like, we need it done right, you know? And honestly, I've put your name out there a few times. I don't know. But now knowing that you do more high-end stuff, I would have to, like, recalibrate. I'm not going to send some kid with a fucking high-end Elantra to you because maybe that's not what you're interested in doing.
Well, there's different halves of, like, you know, different sides of what we're doing. And, like, the collision repair side of things is what I'm really focused on right now. And for that, like, we do it doesn't matter what it is, you know what I mean? Any collision repair, like, you'll come one day and there'll be a Ferrari next to a 15-year-old Honda Civic. It doesn't matter. You know? We're not too good to work on anything.
Sure. Okay.
And one thing I will say is that there's a newer shop that just popped up that has, like, the same name and the same font that we have, and I think they're in Westchester.
Really?
It's like AMS Motorsports or something. And dude, like, I got 20-year-old T-shirts with the logo on it, right? It's like identical.
You better file cease and desist, brother.
Well, so the name of mine is Automoto Specialist, like car and motorcycle specialist. Which when I started that, I'm like, it's really simple. I do a lot of bikes, a lot of cars, car and motorcycle specialist. Very simple, right?
Yeah.
But over the years we've gone by AMS because it's just easy. So now this new shop is AMS, and it's like I don't know if it's going to cause any confusion, but when we were at that show last week, I saw the dude with the shirt on, and I was like, oh, here we go. You know, I don't care in any type of way because, like, at this point, you know, we don't really, I'm not going to say we don't have competition, but it's not competition I'm concerned with.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that us and that shop are pursuing very different paths in the industry. So it's no hate on them or nothing. I'm just like, oh man, this might be a little confusing for some people, you know?
Did anybody say anything? Did you talk to the guy?
Nah.
No?
No, I'm not really one to start conversations.
Yeah.
You know, so like
you just wait until they walk into your shop?
Well, I'm not really good at small talk. You
know?
I don't have a lot in common with most people. I'm a weirdo, man, and like I own it. Like I am very much in my own world, and like I've gotten very comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like I acknowledge, like I don't have a lot in common with most people, just because like I'm kind of in outer space most of the time.
I think we all are. We just, some of us. I would peg you as, if I were to describe you, I would say you're a little more introverted.
Yeah.
Like I'm the opposite. I clearly just walked into your shop and was like, all right, let's see what fucking happens here.
Right.
You know? And I can see now that you're definitely the kind of guy that's like, so when I invited you onto this show, I clearly kind of just thought, like, he says yes, but most people do. Most people say yes and they just never show up, you know?
Or they come down here and they freeze up.
Yeah.
Where they
well, he's pretty well spoken.
This is great.
You know? And
I'll be honest with you, and I mean, I'll put this right on. This might be my favorite episode yet.
Really?
Yeah.
But he says that for every episode.
No, this has been awesome. This has been awesome.
Yeah. And we ran over. We're
you
almost
were an
an hour
awesome
and a half.
guest.
You know,
awesome guest.
Oh, thanks, man. Oh.
I think it's you know, like I do kind of want to wrap up because I actually have like a phone conference thing I have to do at 10:30. But I do want to like say that, you know, the kind of person you are, I don't think you're a weirdo. I think that you're
comfortable in your own skin.
Well, you're cerebral, you know. Like in my opinion, I look at a guy that is constantly assessing the everything around you, and you're you know, like you're methodical and you're trying to make decisions whether or not this is good or bad for you. And,
it
and
seems
I
like
think
you're pretty confident with what direction you go in. So I mean,
yeah.
So like, I mean, I was kind of surprised because I saw you at that second car show in Brookhaven, I think it was, and like you and your brother both sat there and chummed it up with me. And dude, I know what I am. I know that I'm a little loud, and sometimes I bump into people sometimes, and they're just like, "You're too much for me, man," and they'll turn around and walk away, and I just kind of laugh, and I'm just like, all right, well, you know, I'm not your cup of tea, man. I'm not going to stop being me. I like rotten sense of humors and George Carlin jokes, and you know, I don't know. I grew up in a body shop where Howard Stern played on the radio all day when I was a 10-year-old kid, and that's where my brain, you know, dirty sex jokes and all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's
and,
cool, man.
You know,
being too much is better than being not enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, so like, but also, you know what's great about you? So like the image that you've created on Instagram, like with the sunglasses and like just the cool cars, some of the content you create. I think, and John will agree with me on this one, artists, because you are an artist. I'm going to peg you as an artist at this point. Artists have a particular style. Every artist has a particular style. John draws a very particular kind of way, and I do my thing a certain kind of way. And what's neat about you is you are creating this image. This is what Jay Lyons is. You know, this is what I do. This is what I like. You are a little avant-garde. You know, sometimes you have like the sunglasses. I kind of like busted your chops a little bit, and you laughed it off. You were cool about it. You were like, nah, man, I just really like them.
Because I know it's weird.
Yeah.
Right? I know, like, typically you'd see, like, a 60-year-old black guy wearing them, right? And, like, I own that, you know what I mean?
It's
like,
awesome.
I know, I know it's funny, but I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's also why it looks great on you, man. Like, in my opinion, the actual image that you're creating, you have a style. You have a thing. And I think that's what a lot of people like about you. And even more, the people that gravitate towards you is because they know you're not a bullshit artist. They know that you have morals, the way you display that you're a family guy and your concerns, you know, like, I don't know, man. I haven't known you very long, even though we've ran in similar circles, but dude, you got my respect, man.
Thanks, man. Likewise.
All I gotta do is just remember your first name correctly now, so.
That was funny, right?
Yeah, this was a great episode, man. I really appreciate you coming.
I'm glad
down
you guys are doing this, and I love the podcast, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
come back sometime. We'll talk about music or something.
All right.
Do you want to plug your social media at all, or no?
I just go by Jay Lyons for everything.
Yeah.
That's JAYLYONS.
Yeah, I am. No A.
Yeah.
I'm Jay Lyons. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, mostly on Facebook.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You guys want to hear some music?
Let's dig it.
Thanks for listening to Renaissance Man-Child. Renaissance Man-Child is a Yardbird Tuna production. If you enjoyed the show, please like, follow, and share. Any ideas or suggestions, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram.
Oh, shit!
You talk good.